Hi guys, welcome to the mix room. This is Dami. Today I'm going to talk about why you should get analog gear. Now that's always a controversial topic, and what it leads to mostly is, well, is analog better than digital? So I'm just going to share my thought. These are not pre-planned thoughts, but these are just something that I want to, based on my own experience as well, to share with you, and let's have a discussion. So number one, should you get analog gear? And is analog gear better? Because you want to get it if it's better than working digital. And my own sincere answer to that is I think analog sounds better than digital, point blank. Now, not all analog gears sound good. So that's another thing. Just because it's analog, it's physical, doesn't mean you need to get it. And sometimes the price also might not be a factor in deciding if you should get it or not. For instance, I remember the 500 series SSL EQ was selling for about $1,000. It was really expensive, even than the Neve EQ. And then during I don't know, the reshuffling, restructuring that SSL went through a few years ago, all of their gears became cheaper and affordable. And I want to use the word affordable. Same components. So does that mean the sound has degraded? No. What defines whether something is good is what you can hear, what you consider sonically better than the other. For the longest, even when I couldn't even afford the preamp, I've always heard sounds on the radio, and I covet in a good way those sound. I try to get that with plugins. That's the way you actually want to start. Because the gear, which I'm going to get to later, it's not going to make you a better mixer or anything. It will never. You will still mix horrible mixes with $100,000 gear. So you want to use basically what you have at your disposal to get a good sound. But in my world, there's a place for analog, right, when it comes to mixing that plugins cannot do. I know I've used a lot of plugins that I can vouch on. You've heard me say them. A lot of Sound Toys plugin, Kush Audio. I'm not a UAD fan, but I've tried the UAD. I don't know. There's one tape emulation at a French studio that I tried. I mean, and I'm blown away. I'm like, how is this even possible that a tape plugin can sound like this? Because I'm used to analog now, and it sounds really, really nice. So there are definitely good companies out there making great sounding records. So here is the thing. I think from my experience now, there are times where I am mixing a song, I decide to do it in the box because of what convenience purposes, because I don't want to worry about coming to recall and all of that. But sometimes when I just run them through, because I'm missing something, even though I'm mixing the song, I'm missing that sound. That sound is not something that EQ would give to you. It's not the sound of a compressor. It's not the sound of, all these tools we use. It's just the sound, I believe, of analog, of real transformers running your audio through them. And all of a sudden, when I've tried that to where I ran my song through it, and then it's like chill water. Right, I just felt it. Doesn't mean the mix is done. Doesn't mean the mix is good, but it got me somewhere where it's sonically pleasing to the ears, and that's it. So everybody have different ears, right? On how they interpret music. But I've just loved anything organic, anything raw. Plugins are definitely good. I use them. I use a lot of the tape saturation plugin, even though I'm still mixing hybrid. I use them. So in my world, the analog can give you maybe that 20%, that 10%, and those are huge numbers when I say 20%. Or maybe 10% that you're missing, that you cannot get just mixing in the box. Now, one of the first major investment I made was a summing mixer. We all know what summing mixer is. We've all tried doing summing mixing in the box. The idea of doing summing mixing in the box is good. I love the companies like Wave made NLS. Slate has his own VCC, which I use all of this guy. VCC is one of my favorite because there's just something it adds to the sound. So we've all tried different emulation, but the end goal is you are still in the box. Summing or no summing is still called in the box. That's just my opinion. But the first major investment I made was to get the Neve Orbit, which is the summon mixer, and instantly, like I could basically hear when I got it then, because now I have other things running, so I can't tell you which one is doing what to it. But initially, when I got it, I could instantly right tell the difference in sound, especially even when you drive the unit to get that distortion. You could be, and I love mixing it in red as well, not red continuously, but even if it's continuous, who cares? If I just want to hear if there's no audible distortion, and if the saturation is pleasing enough, I will leave it there, but always at least hitting the red zone. So as soon as I ran it through it, I could basically, tell the quality change in the sound. Before that as well, so I actually think before I got the summon mixer, was I invested in preamps. And my thought process was this: you might not be able to mix, hybrid, spend money on some gears, but maybe during the tracking process, you want to get the analog sound. So if you invest in, and I'll give an example of things you can invest in getting a good capture with analog gears, then you can completely mix in the box. And here is my own take too, because I did this test when I got Neve preamp, so Neve 1073, the 500 series version, which not sure if you can see, it's right here. I have 4 of those. I didn't start with 4, I started with maybe 1. I always wanted to get things pair, right? So stereo was my thing, because why 1? One will only be used for tracking mono instruments, so I wanted 2. And then so what I did was I ran all of my songs. Let's say these are drums that I've recorded, piano I've recorded. I ran them through the Neve and printed it back. And from my memory, the first thing I heard was, when I was playing, comparing both, was there's just some depth. And it's kind of, there was is it space, which is interesting. I remember, there was space. I'm like, where did I get the width from? It didn't make sense. I didn't use any widener plugin. I got width, and I also got depth or weight. And this is just preamps only gave me that. So even if that's all that you can maybe afford, which is what I would say, you can get like two preamp, good ones, maybe Neve or whichever one that you prefer. There are APIs too. I have the API, but the Neve is easier for me to dial it in. I don't know. It's probably the easiest preamp ever to actually use. Well, to get a sound, yeah, because I have a few different preamps here. So you can basically start with that. And then it's just time consuming, which means you have to run all your tracks through it. But if it's going to do that to get the sound, analog sound in your chain, that is definitely worth it. But where I've seen the maybe major impact or improvement in using analog is really, I think, in the mixing stage. If all you can get is a summon mixer like that Neve, I can only speak on that because that's the one I've used on the 57 orbit, and crank it. Use the transformer, use the silk mode it has on there to give you added harmonics, right? Blue or red. Also drive that thing to get that saturation, because analog is basically saturation, rich saturation. That's why what's the good thing about analog, right? And most of the plugins that are emulating these things, that's what they are doing, saturation. Crank it, and I can tell you that you probably hear a world of difference in sound quality. That might just be the 5% that you're looking for, the 10% that will make you feel happy that, okay, finally I got it. But another thing I would say is, when it comes to analog, is you gotta learn that stuff. I kid you not, you have to actually learn how to use it. Some of these gears I have, I'm still learning how to use them. And what I mean is, what is the right amount of gain to push into those analog gear? Should you be scared? Should you not be scared? Because sometimes we find a comfort zone and we stay there, but not knowing that we are missing out on some things. Or we could be using it the wrong way and we don't know, just because it's been yielding some results that we like, but we're still using it the wrong way, right? Just like when I got the Neve preamp, because what I wanted was that warm sound, low mid that Neve gave me, right? But I won't say I was using it the wrong way. I was using the preamp, and I loved the sound, but I was more on the clean side and the grittier side, which I actually like. But I watched the YouTube video, and then the guy did a video on how people use the Neve and how they've been using it in the wrong way. Then I changed. And what I mean by that is I crank the output all the way, and then use my gain to dial in the volume I want, and then I can use the output of that Neve, which is the trim on the Neve, to dial it back. What I realized is that gave me a warmer sound, which I could be wrong on that, so please don't take my word for it. I'm not sure if it's the inputs transformer it has or the output, but that is that. I have like Phoenix Audio as well, which has an output transformer, and you can hear those things. They do not sound the same. So, and I've also read maybe in time past where people will say preamps don't do anything. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know what what they mean. Even some of the cleanest preamp, well, I won't call it clean, but like the SSL VHD Plus, which is very affordable, right? You consider that as a clean preamp. Obviously, it has drive in there, but the clean is clean. There's something about the clean and there's something about the gain that preamp gives you that some of these other ones don't give you, right? So I don't think preamps all sound the same. The question is if it's clean. I mean, clean, like, well, digital is clean too, but maybe the preamp that's clean is high fidelity clean. I have not done test on that, but I'm just saying. So when I get stuff analog, I'm looking for mostly that's just me color most times. I take that back again, right? Because I've grown. But that's why I associate it with analog color, saturation, and that's why I have a lot of colored preamps here. But the reason why I said that is I have this X Filter Mastering Edition. It's an equalizer by Alicia. And this stuff is clean. It adds no color. But the way it cuts your sound and boost, I think is completely different. No, I think it's different from when I use plugin. You don't get the feel, what I hear on here. That stuff is amazing. Even though I'm only cutting maybe who knows 1 dB here, 2 dB here, when you take it out of the mix, you hear a world of difference, depending on how you use it, by the way. Right, so clean doesn't just mean digital, I would say. You can get quality clean using hardware as well. So, anyways, is analog good? Should you get analog gear? Yes, I would say if you want it, if you desire the sound, and if it works with your workflow. If it doesn't work and it's going to basically put a hook on your neck, just stay away from it and mix in the box. But here's what I would say. This guy calls Caperon, I'm not sure of his last name. He did a video a while back on the two preamps, right? These are basically preamps from Capi Audio that was custom made for him, I believe, right? And he uses that on his mix bus. To be honest, if that's all you can get, I mean, just think about his analog. Don't think about it just preamp, or why would I run my mixes through a pre? No, it's color, it's transformer, it's whatever you need it to be that's in there. And I can guarantee you that even if it's just that you can do, you would hear a difference if your stuff is running through just those two units. So think of just getting a small lunch box and it's 500 series, by the way, just buy two stereo. And if you want, maybe you can buy an equalizer too. This will cost you some more money, but just focus on the pre only. Just focus on the pre. Run it through it and send it back into your DAW, record back in. I think you definitely hear a lot of difference in the sound. So I do not subscribe to the thought, and this is my opinion, this is going to be public, that Digi2 is the same as analog, or that analog does not sound better than Digi2. I don't agree with that. I don't think so. Digi2 have gone a long way, which thank God for that. I mix mostly in the box, like in the everything, maybe compressors in the box. I only run my mix bus through the analog chain. Occasionally, I will use maybe some of my compressor on vocals and bass, and that's it. I try not to do too much to simplify my work. But that's it. So I hope this video was helpful. I think analog still I won't say wins. No, I won't say win, but analog is still analog. It's still doing good as it's done in time past. So that's it, guys. Thanks for staying by and watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.